The story opens with a scene of domestic normalcy, a family gathered together in their home, perhaps around the dinner table or in the living room. The atmosphere is warm and unremarkable, filled with the kind of mundane interactions that define everyday life. The man at the center of the story might be laughing at a joke, discussing his day, or simply listening to his loved ones. There is no foreshadowing, no ominous music, no strange occurrences, just an ordinary moment shared between ordinary people. This scene is crucial because it lulls both the characters and the reader into a false sense of security. The family's conversations, the clinking of utensils, the hum of household appliances, everything feels real and solid. The man himself is fully present, physically and emotionally engaged, with no indication that anything is amiss. His existence is unquestioned, his humanity undeniable. Yet this very ordinariness makes what follows so unsettling. The scene is designed to mirror the reader's own reality, making the impossible event that comes next feel even more invasive. Had the story begun with eerie weather, cryptic warnings, or a sense of dread, the disappearance might have felt expected, part of a horror or fantasy tale. But because it happens in the middle of absolute normalcy, it becomes far more disturbing. The family's dynamic in this moment also matters. Are they a close-knit group? Is there tension beneath the surface? Some versions of the story might hint at minor conflicts, a teenage daughter rolling her eyes, a wife distracted by chores, but nothing serious enough to explain what happens. These small, realistic details make the scene feel lived in, reinforcing the horror when reality fractures without warning. Ultimately, this opening scene is a masterclass in contrast. It presents a world that feels just like ours until it isn't. And when the man disappears, it's not just his body that vanishes. It's the reader's trust in the stability of existence itself. The story begins in the quiet hum of an unremarkable evening, the kind that slips by without memory until it becomes unforgettable. The family is gathered in that familiar, unscripted way of people who have shared countless nights like this one. Maybe it's a weeknight dinner, the table set without ceremony, or a lazy weekend evening where the TV murmurs in the background. The man, husband, father, an ordinary figure in an ordinary life, is fully present, his voice threading into the conversation as naturally as breath. There's a rhythm to these moments, one we all know, the clatter of dishes, the half-listening nods, the way someone laughs while chewing. Maybe the kids are bickering lightly, or the dog noses at someone's knee under the table. The lighting is warm, but unexceptional. The overhead kitchen bulb, the flicker of a candle if they're being sentimental. Nothing is staged, nothing is foreshadowed. That's what makes it so devastating later. This scene isn't just set up, it's a mirror. It reflects the fragile illusion that life is stable, that the people we love are constants. The man isn't a hero or a villain, he's just there, solid in his chair, his presence as unquestioned as gravity. His wife might pass him the salt without looking. His daughter might interrupt him, eager to tell her own story. These tiny, forgettable interactions are the foundation of the horror to come, because there are interactions, our foundations, and then the realism is deliberate. No eerie silence falls beforehand, no chill runs down spines. If anything, the scene might even feel boring in its normality, which is the point. The horror doesn't come from shadows or ghosts. It comes from the fact that one second, the world works the way it should, and the next, it doesn't. The family doesn't know they're in a story. They don't feel the audience watching. They are, in this moment, as real as you or I, which is why, when the impossible happens, it doesn't feel like fiction. It feels like a crack in everything. But that's the next scene. For now, the man is still here. For now, the world still makes sense. It happens without ceremony. One moment the man is there, leaning forward to grab his glass halfway through a sentence, his presence as unquestioned as the air in the room. The next, something is wrong. Not dramatically, not with a bang or a flicker of lights, but subtly, horribly. His edges soften. His voice thins as if someone turned down the volume on him alone. At first, the family doesn't register it. The human mind is built to dismiss glitches. Must be the light, they might think. Or my eyes are tired. But then his hand passes through the salt shaker he was reaching for. Or his laughter cuts off mid-breath, not like he stopped, but like the sound itself was erased. Panic comes in waves. His daughter blinks, thinking her vision blurred. His wife reaches out, her fingers grazing nothing where his shoulder should be. He's still trying to speak. They see his mouth move, see the crease in his brow as he realizes they aren't reacting, but his words don't reach them anymore. Then, the worst part, he fades. Not like a ghost in a movie, but like a stain being rinsed from fabric. Patchy, uneven. Parts of him linger longer, a single eye, the curve of his wedding ring, before they too dissolve into the air. The last to go is his expression, confusion, then dawning terror, then nothing. The space where he sat is empty, not even an indent in the cushion. It begins with something so small no one notices at first. Perhaps the man's voice develops a strange echo, as if he's suddenly speaking from the bottom of a well while still sitting right there at the dinner table. His words might take on a faint metallic quality, like a recording played back through damaged speakers. His family blinks, unconsciously tilting their heads. Did the air just get heavier, or was that their imagination? Then the distortions become physical. His outline wavers like heat rising off pavement on a summer day. When he moves his hand to reach for his glass, the motion leaves after images trailing behind. Not like a supernatural effect, but like a glitch in human perception. His fingers pass through the glass on the first try, phasing through solid matter before he pulls back with a startled expression. The glass trembles, but doesn't fall, as if even inanimate objects are confused by this violation of physics. His family's reactions come in staggered waves. His wife's hand is still outstretched from where she tried to grab him. Her fingers tremble in the empty air, her mouth working soundlessly before the first scream tears loose. Not a dramatic horror movie wail, but something raw and guttural, the sound of a woman who has just seen the universe break. The children react in staggered terror. The youngest might laugh at first, thinking it's a game, until the older sibling's uncontrolled sobbing tells them no, this is real. Daddy's gone. The teenager freezes, caught between the instinct to run and the paralyzing need to understand. They touch the space where he was, as if expecting to find him invisible, but solid. Hands pat the air, grasping at nothing. The wife might lurch forward and press her face against the chair, inhaling sharply. Does it still smell like him? Is there warmth left in the fabric? The dog, confused, whines and noses at the man's abandoned shoe. Then comes the frantic, illogical scramble for explanation. "He's hiding!" the youngest shrieks, scrambling under the table. The wife fumbles for her phone, her fingers slipping on the screen. Who does she even call? The police? A doctor? An exorcist? The teenager, voice cracking, demands, "What the hell was that?" As if the others might have an answer. There's a horrifying moment where they all look at each other, silently begging someone to say it was a prank, a shared hallucination, anything but the truth. That a person can simply cease to exist in the middle of a Tuesday night. The clock ticks, the food goes cold, and the family is left sitting around a table that now feels like a crime scene. staring at an empty chair, wondering if they'll ever stop seeing it. That last, terrible moment when his eyes locked onto theirs, full of a fear they couldn't save him from. The aftermath of the impossible is not a single moment, but a cascading collapse of reality as they knew it. At first, the silence is so absolute it becomes a physical presence, the kind of quiet that rings in your ears. The wife's coffee cup slips from her fingers but doesn't shatter. It rolls in slow motion across the tablecloth, leaving a winding brown trail that no one moves to stop. The children's faces cycle through expressions like a film stuck between frames, confusion giving way to dawning horror, then freezing in terrified suspension. Then comes the cacophony. The youngest child, perhaps 4 or 5, begins giggling uncontrollably, tiny hands clapping. "Do it again, Daddy!" she squeals, scanning the room for where he'll reappear. Her laughter grows more frantic when no one joins in, turning jagged at the edges. The teenage son recoils so violently, his chair topples backward, his sneakers squeaking against the floor as he crab walks away from the table. "What the fuck?" he keeps repeating, voice cracking between octaves. What the actual fuck? The wife's reaction is the most devastating. She doesn't scream. She methodically begins checking places, under the table, behind the curtains, as if her husband might simply be crouching there. Her movements are precise, robotic. When her search proves futile, she picks up his half-eaten roll and carefully places it back on his plate, aligning it just so, as if maintaining his place setting could summon him back. The police arrive to a scene of quiet devastation, not a crime scene, but the absence of one. There are no signs of struggle, no blood, no broken glass, no evidence of foul play. Just a half-eaten meal, a toppled chair from where the teenage son scrambled backward, and a family whose collective trauma has left them speaking in fractured, desperate sentences. The officers exchange glances. This is either an elaborate hoax or something far beyond their pay grade. The first cop on the scene, a 20-year veteran with a no-nonsense demeanor, takes notes with growing unease. He's seen missing persons cases before, but never one where the disappearance happened in front of witnesses. His pen hesitates over the page. Husband allegedly vanished into thin air. He scratches out, allegedly. What else could he call it? Forensics finds nothing. No fingerprints except the family's. No disturbances in the dust or carpet. The man's phone, wallet, and keys remain on the counter, untouched, as if waiting for him to return. The only anomaly? A faint, static charge in the air near his chair, detectable only by sensitive equipment. It dissipates within the hour. By morning, news vans crowd the street. The story spreads. Local man disappears in front of family, with varying degrees of sensationalism. Online, theories explode. Government experiments, alien abductions, divine intervention. The family's grief becomes public spectacle. Strangers show up at their door, some offering sympathy, others demanding answers they don't have. Police officers take statements with growing discomfort, their pens hovering over notebooks as they struggle to transcribe the impossible. So, you're saying he just dissolved? One asks, unable to keep the skepticism from his voice. The family's trauma is met with poorly concealed doubt, until forensics finds nothing. No fingerprints but theirs, no signs of struggle, just an eerie absence where a man should be. The lead detective, a pragmatic woman with 15 years on the force, secretly checks the house's carbon monoxide detectors. When they read normal, she calls in a physicist friend who mentions quantum decoherence before shaking his head. If this really happened, we have no framework for it. Months later, The case remains technically open, but practically abandoned. The police chief privately tells the wife, "Ma'am, we don't have a category for what you described." The family exists in limbo, unable to mourn, unable to move on. The teenage son becomes obsessed with M theory and parallel universes, his bedroom walls papered with equations. The daughter stops speaking altogether for 47 days. The wife finds herself staring at strangers in supermarkets, searching for a familiar set of shoulders in every crowd. Months after the disappearance, the house begins to breathe. Not literally, of course, but the family notices things. The youngest child claims to hear Daddy singing lullabies from inside the walls, his voice muffled as if underwater. The wife wakes at 3:17 a.m., always 3:17, to the smell of his cologne, so strong it lingers on his pillowcase. The teenage son's phone glitches whenever he passes his father's empty chair. Photos distort, audio recordings play backward. Are these hallucinations? Ghosts? Or is whatever took him leaking back through? His social media accounts remain active, not in the usual memorialized profile way. His status updates stop, but his presence lingers. Spotify unwittingly adds songs to his playlists. His Amazon account orders a book he'd talked about buying, delivered to an address that doesn't exist. When the wife logs into his email, she finds a single draft message dated the day after he vanished. "Can you hear me?" It's so... The cursor blinks, waiting for words that never come. 6 weeks later, the elderly woman across the street mentions offhand, "I saw Jim standing in your window last night." When pressed, she describes him perfectly, right down to the shirt he'd worn that final evening. But here's the thing. She never knew he'd disappeared. The family had told no one on the block, too afraid of being labeled crazy, so who, or what, did she see? A year later, the family moves, not because they want to, but because the walls won't stop whispering. The new owners tear down the dining room within a month. The contractor tells the family, through gritted teeth, that they found something behind the drywall. Thousands of finger smudges in the dust, all at adult height, as if someone had been pacing the interior of the walls for decades. The family doesn't mention that the dining room was an exterior wall. There was no space behind it. His LinkedIn profile updates itself. Not the people also viewed algorithm, his actual profile. New skills appear, transdimensional navigation and non-linear temporal awareness. The experience section grows a new entry dated after his disappearance, current, beyond the veil, present. When his wife clicks the link, her browser crashes. When she tries again, the page simply reads, "Do not follow." The daughter develops an uncanny ability. She'll be mid-conversation when suddenly she tilts her head and says, "Daddy just said," before repeating something eerily specific. When pressed, she can't explain how she knows. The words just appear in her mind, in his voice. Medical scans show unusual activity in her amygdala, the fear center, but only when she hears him. The son starts sleepwalking to the exact spot where his father vanished. Security footage shows him standing there, eyes wide open, having conversations with empty air. The audio picks up only one side of the dialogue. "No, I won't tell them that." Because it would break them. "You're not even..." Then the camera glitches. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell for more. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. See you in the next one. Bye for now.